guys seen this shit about Tom Morello? It's like big today. It's kind of fucking hilarious. So I guess somebody tweeted, it's got like 2,000 retweets at this point. Someone tweeted at Tom Morello, I used to be a fan until your political opinions came out. Music is my sanctuary, and the last thing I want to hear is political BS when I'm listening to music. As far as I'm concerned, here's the fucking kicker, guys. As far as I'm concerned, you and Pink are completely done. Keep running your mouth and ruining your fan base. Thumbs up. One, who the fuck is still listening to Pink in conjunction with Rage Against the Machine and Tom Morello? That's what I want. That's a travesty that I cannot abide. And two, where has this guy been for the last 30 fucking years? Like,
and I bet he is not alone either. I bet you there are so many people that are equally stupid.
Fucking retweets.
Yeah, this screams of that's not even a music fan. That's just a political person that saw somebody post about how these artists are political and just decided to weigh in on it.
Yeah, and I'd also, like, we could totally be feeding the trolls. Like, this could easily be a troll, especially with everything that's going on right now. It seems like it could just easily be a fucking troll, but I'm gonna take it as honest posting because I wanna believe that this fucking asshole exists, just so I know that he's taking up my oxygen. God damn it!
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think it's really like. I think it's really taken off right now because of the publicity behind it. But it's not even a new thing. I mean, ever since the election, I mean, Tom Morello's been very vocal about where he stands. And I feel like every day people are finally realizing what that band really stood for.
Yeah, he's got a fucking picture on Instagram.
What was subtle about it?
Right, exactly.
Like, sorry, go ahead.
You were actually making a point of this. I was trying to move us into something else. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that he has a fucking picture on Instagram of him standing next to his guitar, and on the back of his guitar is just a white paper sign that he's taped to his guitar that says "fuck Trump," and his shirt says "Mother, should I trust the government?" And this was, I think, years ago at this point, because I found the post on Reddit, and the post was from like a year ago, and it was probably a repost. So this has been a thing forever.
If it was a post about, like, if it was trolling and it was somebody just making the point that his side project, The Night Watchman, is shitty, then I might be a little on board.
Yeah, sure. But to say that about Rage Against the Machine, like, one of the most pivotal bands of the 90s and early 2000s. Like,
yeah. But it brings up kind of a good question. Looking back through the catalog, were there any bands that you either enjoyed not having any idea of what the songs were about, or were there any bands you enjoyed and then later fell out of love with because you didn't really like their messages?
So I feel like I'm in a not unique position, because I feel like most musicians are pretty liberal or like left leaning. So like anytime I go to a show and someone gets on a soapbox, it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I agree with you, but like, can we not? Because we all agree here. It is funny. Like, I distinctly remember going to a show with a friend of mine who is like decidedly not liberal. And he wasn't offended. He was just kind of like, because the guy that I went to go see is an excellent musician. I love his music, but it felt like the entire night was based upon like, fuck Republicans, like, they're the ones ruining this country, they're terrible people, they're the ones that are, shipping immigrants back to Mexico, and like all these things, which, like, a lot of what he said wasn't untrue, but definitely was like way more jagged of a knife to go into someone that is not thinking that way at all, and probably isn't productive in the long run. But I just remember being like very interested in the fallout of that. And I don't know if he has since not listened to that artist, the friend of mine that is conservative, if he just doesn't listen to him because he's like, I don't like his politics, so why would I listen to him? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like the consumption of anything else. I think artists, of course, they have their voice, and the consumers are going to have every right not to partake just because they don't really align with their views. But
right,
I don't know.
Are either of you into the Smiths at all?
Not really.
Like the whole Morrissey bit, yeah.
Yeah, like that's like the talking point for the other side, right? Is that he is this weird xenophobic asshole who just seems like a general shitty person outside of his politics. But I feel like most people aren't willing to entertain him. Like the people that agree with his viewpoints aren't the ones listening to Morrissey anyways, you know?
We were talking about the Dixie Chicks not too long ago, and as much as I'm not a huge fan, there's something punk rock about musicians who don't give a fuck and will just say their views regardless of what their sort of statistical base is. In that case, of course, country music and the breakdown of most folks who listen to country music and what their values would be.
Right.
Probably would run counter to them at the time.
There's
something really cool about that. But of course, you're also talking about artists that have fuck off money.
Yes. Yeah, like I know someone that is very near and dear to my heart that cannot stand the Dixie Chicks anymore because they were so outspoken against George Bush. It's like for real, like you love them so much and you're not willing to like that to me is such a non-issue, like when it comes to their music, because at least initially their music wasn't overtly political, and eventually it became that way, but like I feel like you could simply turn on their music and enjoy it the way you used to and just ignore their later output, you know?
I would love to hear listeners' thoughts on this, comments. My view of America is that people have an easier time separating it, like a child molester's art from his life versus, counter political points from the art. You know what I mean?
Fucking absolutely. Yes. People like the Billy, you actually will be able to speak to this very well. The whole thing with Jesse Lacey. And I'm not saying like I particularly, agree or disagree with how that all turned out. Like it seemed like he was a shitty person for a long time. But that was the most interesting because that band is so foundational to so many of my friends' formative years that it was very interesting to see them reckoning with that personality with their favorite music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway,
I mean, I have many, many, many thoughts on that I don't feel comfortable diving into right now without any preparation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to make you say something you haven't thought about. So yeah, I do. Let's make Billy uncomfortable. It is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 10 of Bliss Point, a music curation and conversations podcast serving up music discussion, news, show and album reviews, and more. Check us out at bliss.house. That is bliss.haus. There is a playlist that will go up along with this episode that has, some of the singles that we talk about, some of the singles from the albums that we talk about, and is generally just a fun thing to listen along to. My name is Jordan Kaufman, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Billy Gatewood.
Ooh.
And Paul Kolb.
Salutations.
I forgot to ask. Nobody went to any virtual shows. Is that correct?
No.
Nerds.
Okay. Hey, don't knock it if you haven't tried it. Singles. Let's jump into singles. Favorite singles of the week. My single of this week is a track called Shambles by a band named Subsun. And this is some excellently produced and crafted fuzzy math rock. A little in the vein of, say, Covet, a band that we all know and love. I think they're like generally technically more technically forward than Covet is.
But dare you?
I don't mean that in a way that like Covet is not as talented. I just mean they seem less willing to write songs that are attached to an emotion and more things that are like just sound interesting from a technical standpoint. But I don't think that means it's hard to listen to. I think the guitar tone is fucking great. Billy.
Yeah. So I came across Boy Pablo released 2 singles off of his upcoming debut album, which I don't think comes out until like October. So releasing singles real early. But I listened to the first one, Hey Girl, and it's just your basic like bedroom pop, but he really specializes in that. He's really honed in on it, and really nailed that first song. It's full of grooves and riffs that kind of get you ready for summer, which I'm guessing is why he released it now. But it's super good if you like that kind of like indie pop, bedroom pop. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I think we listened to one of his tracks last year.
We did.
And like, I love this guy. Like, I'm very stoked to hear a full length of this, kind of style.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed at how great the production is. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what did it for me, is his production seemed to really take off.
Yes. Mr. Paul.
So this one actually caught me off guard a little bit. Gorillaz released a new track called Friday 13th. Not Friday the 13th, just Friday 13th.
It's Friday 13th.
And it features Octavian, is a UK singer. And on the surface, there's nothing about it that would make, knock your socks off or really make it stick in your memory. But it sounds perfect for summer. It has, the typical Gorillaz dancehall beats. They're continuing that trend of really using UK artists, I think, on the back nine of their run, which is good. I think in the early days, they used a lot of UK rappers and such for sort of legitimacy. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but at any rate, the synth sounds on this are really classic and really light. I don't know. I'd give it a try. It's definitely something fresh.
Yeah, I feel like if you have like just a passing interest in the Gorillaz, this will get you there.
Exactly. Like literally nothing about it will surprise you, but yeah, it's worth a listen.
All right, shout outs. These are going to be the albums that may have just missed the cut for our albums of the week, or maybe we just haven't had a chance to get holy shit. You maybe just haven't had a chance to go knee deep into, or maybe you feel personally attacked by. And my album is in my opinion, a wonderful album that was surprise released. I picked 2 surprise releases this week, actually. And my album is Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist released a new album, Alfredo. And it is just an excellent hip-hop producer duo record that is just clean and dressed to the nines. Like the production is excellent from front to back. This is your typical Alchemist, soul-based, dirty vinyl samples. Freddie Gibbs is still making the case for him being one of the best MCs in the game right now. His flow is just so versatile. There's tons of great features. Billy, there's a Rick Ross feature on here that I think you will enjoy. Rick is sounding incredible and his normal self. And there's just some other great features. There's some great Griselda features, which we talked about them a couple weeks ago. The great rap collective from Buffalo. Tyler, the Creator, is featured on this record. There's just not a lot to complain about. It is solid from front to back, and it's concise too. I think it's less than 40 minutes. So yeah. Paul,
we've said it once. We've said it tens of times. The Alchemist never Alchemist-misses.
Man, we need that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, like honestly, if you see the Alchemist and then you see a really good rapper next to his name, it's pretty much a done deal. It's one of those groups. I see that listed somewhere, I kind of just assume it's going to be good, and I'm rarely disappointed.
Yeah, and I'm really happy he's like. Granted, like I know him mainly from pairing with Action a lot. Within the last 4 or 5 years. I think he is really, really getting his due. And this, to me, kind of cemented him as one of hip-hop's go-to producers right now. For him to land just a duo project, not to be featured on a song, not to just drop a single somewhere, not to just drop instrumentals. Like, this is a big-name rapper that he's paired up with, and they they fucking go to town.
I'm excited to check it out. I know I haven't been on the Freddie Gibbs train yet, but I'm excited to check it out and see what it's about.
I think if anything,
I am hopeful.
You like that Rick Ross track, so
yeah,
that'll at least make you happy.
I always have to jam it in there. I feel like the album the Alchemist did with Domogenesis, since we kind of talked about the Tyler connection.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's a sleeper. People really overlook that. It's great.
That came out a couple of years ago, right?
You came out a couple of years ago. Yeah, it did.
You got him. Billy, you want to tell us about your Momma?
Yeah, Momma released their sophomore grunge pop album. It's called Two of Me. I hadn't heard of them before this release, but I found it quite enjoyable. It kind of reminded me of maybe like Soccer Mommy or Snail Mail with like a little bit more edge, maybe
really,
a little bit more fuzzed out guitar.
It's so much better than both those things you listed.
Well, it really stands out. It was, to me, super good. Somewhere, a ton of fuzzed out guitars, really sparingly used lyrics. They're washed out with a bunch of reverb kind of buried in the mix. Behind all that is apparently a concept album.
I read that today.
About some like Carney clone world or something about that. I have no idea.
That explains why all the melody lines have this wild fucking vibrato. Like if you were to sort of visualize the shapes, just all these songs, the melody hook is a zigzag line. And
that weird.
It really made it stand. Yeah, I like those kind of weird, almost wacky hooks against the sort of more even keel girl rock vocals. It's a really cool album.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I love the dynamics of the album. I think it had a great flow from going from like super fuzzed out to some slower songs on the tail end. It just kept my attention, and I think I'll be going back to it quite a bit.
Yes, I completely agree. Tell me if I'm wrong. Does this album remind anyone a little bit of Avlov at all?
You know, it very well could. The whole time I'm sitting there thinking it reminds me of something, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I still can't put my finger on it, and I'm hoping that that's what I mean, or else it will drive me mad. But yes, it's a great album. Great pick, Billy.
Sweet.
Mr. Paul, you want to tell us about the Lords from Flatbush?
Oh, man, it's a good time to be a hip-hop fan. So Flatbush Zombies came out with Now More Than Ever. And right out of the gates, I'll tell you guys, this is a new release for me, not just because Covet came out with something, but because this is that keto approach. If this album's a burger, you need to straight off the top remove the first track and the ending track because they're just, they're not up to snuff. But the middle 3 or 4 tracks, the flow is so good. It's everything you expect from Flatbush Zombies. There's that really gravelly kind of weird flow that you always expect. I don't know. I think it's a good solid release from them, but 2 of those tracks didn't fly for me. There's something sort of... Okay, I'll put it this way. A lot of the flows on this and a lot of the samples they use put me in that same mindset of listening to Bone Thugs-n-Harmony when I was a kid.
Oh.
But that group excelled at using all kinds of cool samples for the choruses. And in this case, the the vocalist they brought in, it just felt so disjointed when it went to the chorus against the verses.
Yeah, I feel like I looked up because I wanted to know. I had heard that this album was in some way related to charity or charity effort. So the background behind the album is actually really neat. They wanted people to use it as they protest, like as an anthem for their protests. And they're hoping to help raise a bunch of money for a few charities that they outline, which is neat.
Oh, they're helping people? This album was perfect, and I have nothing negative to say about it.
I mean, that's kind of my point here is like I didn't have the best things to say about it. I think it's pretty good, but I don't want to detract from the neat things that they're doing with it. So I think it's cool that people enjoy it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I don't want to seem too negative. It's definitely a lot of fun. If you like Flatbush Zombies, it's more of that
for sure.
For sure. Oh yeah, I liked it. As soon as I heard of it, I was like, Paul's probably gonna dig this.
Billy's coming along
You are correct in picking Dirty Elevator Music for your favorite song because that song fucking is great. It's so good.
Yes, sir. I'm a sucker for a slick piano sample, and that I'm not like a hardcore fan. I can't pick out like this guy did this verse, but whatever that low gravelly flow is, that's my favorite thing about Flatbush Zombies.
Yeah, they are super unique, and that's why I will always check out what they do. All right, album of the week. These are going to be the best albums we've heard all week. These should be easy locks for our album of the year. And my pick this week is Mr. Jeff Rosenstock. He surprise released a new album called No Dream. It is amazing to me that this guy has so much energy. The way that he does, like I think his last record was also a surprise release. Like he just kind of drops things out of nowhere and just has a really awesome work ethic. The mix on this record is so thick. The guitars are super fuzzed out and creates so much chaos with these old school like punk D-beat, blast beat drums that are wild. And I realized I didn't say it before. This is kind of like like you boil this record down, it is essentially pop punk, but there are just so many other things going on that created this weird, diverse mess. Like he blends it with like thrash metal at times, indie rock. Like there's some songs that kind of remind me of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, hardcore punk. Like he just does everything. And I could see like his vocals aren't like the cleanest. It's 40 minutes and there are no fucking breaks in this record. Like both like literally and metaphorically, he is fucking balls to the wall the entire fucking time. The first track I think is less than a minute long and is just right out the gate in your face. Crazy guitars, crazy like chord changes. It's a nuts record and I absolutely love it.
You're really selling me on this.
Yeah, I think, Paul, you would enjoy this more than Billy would. I know, Billy, you said you weren't a huge fan. I imagine the vocals were doing it for you?
Yeah, it was just kind of all over the place for me.
Yeah, that's fair. It is kind of a mess. And if you are not if you're not a Rosenstock fan or a Bomb the Music Industry fan, this is going to be certainly strange. He is not your traditional pop punk artist for sure. But yeah, it's just great. You should check it out if you have any interest in loud.
Maybe that's why I should check it out.
Yeah, I think you should check it out.
Doing this podcast with you two has taught me that maybe pop punk doesn't need to be a dirty word.
Woo!
It can be a good word, Paul. It can be a very good word. It can also be a very bad word. But we'll save that for another day. Billy, you want to tell us about this new current?
I'm afraid that Paul's going to take back that statement and say he has not come around to metalcore yet, because that's all I seem to be talking about lately. But Currents, they're another band back with their second full-length album. It's called The Way It Ends. They're a super good modern metal band from Connecticut. If you liked the Polaris album I talked about earlier in the year, you will most certainly like this as well, I bet. They're the kind of metal band that kind of lets the bass really drive the rhythm up in the forefront. When I saw them live a while back in Baltimore, I was surprised like how present the bass was. But that's really where the grit of the rhythm comes through. Things I particularly like about this album is just kind of how diverse it is. I love any kind of metalcore album that starts with a nice clean intro song with a nice like screaming, distant, washed out vocal. Just I eat it up every time. And when that goes into the heaviest song on the album, just consider it done, game over. This is going to be an album I love. And that's exactly what they do. Going into that second song, it's just so heavy. And then they have a lot more like modern metalcore songs, like I was alluding to. As you get kind of halfway through the album, they have a couple of like really cool like thrash solos to get you kind of in that like death metal thrash genre area too, just to kind of pull you back in when things get a little too poppy for you. But overall, I mean, it's a super solid album from front to back. They are definitely at the forefront of the kind of new modern metalcore scene. They're definitely, especially with this release, I think gonna start taking it to the top.
And Billy, I'm gonna take a page out of your book, and I'm only gonna say nice things. I'm not gonna.
You can dump on it if you need to.
No, I don't want to dump on it because it's the same thing I'll have said about every other metalcore band.
Clean vocals.
They're fucking clean vocals. Every song sounds like the last. I'm not gonna get into it. Anyways, I love the vocalist. I think his screaming vocals are very cool and very growly, and his range is really neat. Like he's got those like guttural death metal like shit going on. Like he has the clarity thing. Like he has a good singing voice. I'm not gonna knock him there. But yeah, I think like one thing that kind of bothered me, and this isn't like I'm not just gonna trash it. One thing that kind of bothered me, and tell me if I'm out of line here, but I felt like the guitars were mixed super low. Like in like kind of harping on what you said about the bass is like super in the mix and really driving the band. I think they do lean a lot on like those groove based kind of gent style guitars where it's like one or two notes that they kind of jump back and forth between. Like they're not doing a lot of high lead guitar, it's a lot of low rhythm guitar, and maybe that's why they keep it super low in the mix. And the vocalist shines through, which is the most important part, right, for this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think?
So that just seems to be their style. Like that seems to be a stylistic choice. That the bass is one of it's a lead instrument next to the guitars. It's not something that just kind of adds to the whole low end of the sound or anything like it. They put it right up there with the guitars, and it's supposed to be, I think, the driving force of the song, which I didn't realize until I saw them live, and it's so much more obvious live.
Yeah.
But I mean, they just fuzz that bass out like crazy. And
yeah, I appreciate that for sure, because I, like you had kind of alluded to, like more often than not you'll hear a metalcore or a metal band and like there's no bass presence at all. Right. And it's like, what are you fucking doing here? Why are we paying you? Like we don't hear you anyways. But like at least these guys is equal if not higher than the guitars. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think that is purposeful and a stylistic choice of theirs.
Nice. All right, this one. It's funny. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of this podcast, in the short history of this podcast. I think Paul and Billy agree on a record that I don't agree on.
Wow.
I know. It's pretty crazy. But Paul, I want you to tell me how you feel about this new Covet record.
I'm almost at a loss for words right now. Are you telling me that this Covet record, Technicolor, displeases you when you liked the previous record that is, in all honesty, a lot of the same shit?
So, Paul, does this mean you could make the statement that I have better taste in math rock than Jordan does, even though my taste in math rock is terrible?
Yeah, I don't know. I was ready to make that statement about hip-hop, but...
That might be one step too far?
It might be, a bridge too far.
Okay.
But I actually am now very excited about where this is about to head. So, for my part in this, I love it. I like that it has a lot of the same stuff you expect from Covet. They're doing their math rock thing. For people who aren't as familiar with the genre, it's basically more complexity and more kind of rhythmic breakdowns, but without the outside tonalities of jazz that can be kind of more of a barrier to entry for people. I mean, it's just straightforward melodies you can easily get hooked on. They're all earwormy, but there's just a lot of technical guitar playing, a lot of technical bass playing that's locked in. And I think that's maybe one of the things I liked more about this album than even the previous one, is I liked the way that even though some of Yvette's parts were more simplistic than usual, you were really getting to hear the synergy with the other instruments in the three-piece. There is a feature from the guitarist from Caspian, even though I guess Spotify couldn't decide on how to spell his first name.
I mean, they also fucked it up on Bandcamp, so they really are the poor guy.
Yeah. But it is Philip Jameson for folks. He has a feature on one of the tracks. More dirty guitar sounds I might have mentioned. There's even a track that's kind of tongue-in-cheek called Atreyu. But I don't know. I really liked it. I'm curious to see what you two thought.
So just to kind of echo on what you were saying, Paul, like some of the stuff that I liked most about this album is that they did kind of dial it back just a little bit and really show some of the beauty in some of the just simple melodies and simple lines. And like you said, it just kind of glues together super well all the pieces. And it's not as I think I like it better even than the first album, just because the first album was great in the sense that it was just something maybe not new, but for them it was just so well done. And for this album, I think they just jumped even higher and just kind of got that much more glued together. And it just, I don't know. I always find beauty in the more simplistic stuff. And so I loved it.
Yeah, I love everything that's still here in this album that was part of the previous, but all the changes that they've made in between, I like this album more than the previous effort, for sure. Yeah.
So I'll go on record and say I don't think the record's bad. I think Paul, I completely agree with you. The presence of the bass is definitely more obvious, and I think is awesome. Because I think he's a really good bassist, and I think he complements her guitar playing so well. And I don't know if like it was for a lack of like mixing or he just purposely wasn't as loud on the last record. But it feels like, yeah, there are more together in terms of levels on this record, for sure. And I think Atreyu, Nero, Ares, and Parrot are like excellent extensions of their previous more languid, clean, and jazzy sound. I think they've kind of stepped up the fuzzy guitars, which is cool. They're super technical. They're super groovy. I think her singing voice is beautiful. But my problem is I think the songs where she sings are super boring. And I think I was trying to kind of articulate what I don't really like. And I think it's because they've transitioned to a more post-rock sound that is less reliant on the, super fanciful guitars and more on like the crescendo, like emotive feeling kind of songs. And they like
what I'm hearing is they're being more musical.
Yes, I think that they are. I think they are they're making more mature songwriting decisions, and I think it's awesome that they're showing that growth. I just don't really care about it as much. That's all.
That's entirely fair.
So yeah, I think it's really neat that they have they've really tried to change, like improve upon their sound without actually changing it all that much. I think that's awesome, and they will always be one of my favorite math rock groups, if only because Yvette is one of my favorite guitar players right now and probably ever. I think she's just got a way with the instrument. So I really don't have that much bad to say. I think I don't want to be too mean to them because I love them so much. So
I'm hoping the fan base starts to pay more attention to the other members of the band too. Like I get it. Yvette Young's incredibly talented. She's sort of the face of the band. She's beautiful and artistic and paints on the guitars and shit. But that bassist is nasty. And
for sure.
The drummer, same thing.
Yeah, I think
I just want it to be Yvette Young and the boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
They deserve better than that.
Yeah, because I think the drummer is underrated in that he's kind of like a chameleon. Like he's really able to switch between styles very seamlessly. Like I never felt his, transition fills were out of place, and he is able to play, the simpler kind of post-rock stuff, but also do the jazzier math rock stuff without, detracting from the bass guitar duo stuff that's going on all the time. So yeah, you're totally right. I think it'll be interesting to see if people take to this record. I mean, I think people love them a lot. I think they're very much a like Guitar World kind of band, or they have been, and I wonder if this will help them kind of transition more into a emo-ish kind of like, twinkly kind of scene. But I don't know. It's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see once they start touring again, like what kind of audience they have.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if it changes at all. I imagine it'll stay the same, but
yeah, probably. Yeah, bearded white guys can't get away from this type of music. So, all right. If you're curious about the singles and albums we talked about today and the ones we didn't, there will be a playlist up on the site containing all the singles and the best tracks from this week's albums. That site, if you weren't familiar, is bliss.house. That's bliss.house. Please take a listen to the playlist.
We're talking about first in these episodes. I got on that playlist earlier, and I couldn't believe the stuff Jordan had put on there.
I know,
because
right?
It was right up my alley. I was listening to it track after track, like this was curated for me. Oh, well done, Jordan.
All I want to do is make Billy proud of me in my music choices.
I'm going to need somebody to take Billy's temperature.
Really bring the gang back together. Check us out on all the places podcasts are listened to. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc. Take care of yourselves. Please, please, please take care of each other. I love you all. And that site is bliss.house, bliss.house. Thanks for coming, fellas. Always appreciated.
Always a great time.
Support and don't burn down local businesses.